1, 2. I'm gonna stop doing that 1, 2, and checking my levels and everything. It looks like everything's running right. I was doing my due diligence. Y'all know I don't do that procrastination thing. I just know it's a time and a place for everything. That's how I do it. I'm just taking my time, showing patience. This is the video. This is how it's going to come out. It's going to be a good one. I mean, I've been making masterpieces. It's just it's not coinciding with what they want me to do, and that's why they mad at me. I'm gonna call this video Tim Black is a foundational white American name. Let me repeat that, right? Timothy Black is a white foundational American name, a foundational white American name. Let's do it like that, because we do foundational black, right? Timothy Black is a foundational white American name. There it is. It is that easy. Like we do know that there's white people last name Black. Timothy is clearly, white people are named Timothy, right? So we're going to say Timothy Black is a foundational white American name, right? And then I have the nerve to be featuring the gaming. I'm gonna feature the gaming family today, community I like to call them. I'm gonna share a little bit of Spawn Wave and Rob over there at Rules of Two Review, right? And I'm just gonna straight share that video. When I'm going to, do my fair use 1976 or whatever year that was, Copyright Act. Just 7 minutes of Spawn Wave, maybe 7 minutes of him, of Rob, and then I'm gonna share 7 minutes of Timothy Black. And just to compare and contrast the gaming community and how they were able to create gaming news, and then whereas Tim Black is trying to do professional black media news, and he's going to share some of that CNN, beef that they had today, or yesterday or whatever day that was, and it's hilarious to me. I mean, y'all know what I want to do. I just want to play. I just want to share some game theory with y'all, some mathematics, some statistics, hip hop. That's what I share. I'm all about hip hop being an American culture created by the children of the 1960 Civil Rights Movement. I'm real consistent on that. I am hip hop, but recently I've been saying I am a foundational Black American, because that's my identity too. I am the third. My dad is junior, or junior, and his dad was senior, born back in 1915, and I have a son that's the four. So we call him C4, because he's explosive. And it's just ironic to me because that rarely happens. And I'm older. I'm an older dad, so I kind of skipped a generation when having a son. So that's why we're able to go back trace our lineage all the way back to 1915 on my dad's side, and that's the new conservative movement. And I noticed that. I'm noticing how conservatism is really just your last name, But we were in a society where patriarchy, or that kind of following of your father's name being passed down, that's the real problem with a lot of these quote unquote liberals. They want to break up the patriarchy. That was the main movement of Black Lives Matter when they started. They wanted to stop patriarchal practices, and there's no other bigger patriarchal practice than passing your father's name down, So they hate that. Every time I tell people that I'm the third, they're like, all right. And then, your son, what's your son's name? He's the fourth. And I mean, I literally, it's like I'm literally looking at the devil, right? When you know, it is that simple. It's like you're bragging about, you know, and of course they want to, you know, break that up. They don't want him to have the fifth, and there is the issue that's actually going on in our society, and people act like I'm the one that's crazy sharing that. But it is what it is. I mean, we doing fine, and you know, me and the boy, we doing videos together, and you know, what I mean, despite all the people that you know are against that kind of passing the name down. So a big issue with most of these women that you know are of the feminist type, they don't they have a harder time passing their name down because you're dealing with motherhood. You know, everybody only has one mother, um, but everybody has our Father. That's always been the movement of Christianity, and that's what we studied and growing up. I'm just keeping it real. Um, it wasn't you know until I got to high school that I really started looking at the you know the path of the Islamic type, and that's when Guru and Rakim really took off. So that's where I was starting to learn, you know, the 5%, the gods and earth, um, you know, that kind of movement, more of a philosophical movement as opposed to the psychology of Christianity, you know. So I mean, we started on some of those talks, but I'm gonna share a little Spawn Wave. I'm just jump right into it. And Spawn Wave is pretty cool. And what's unique about Spawn Wave is I've been following him for years now on YouTube, and he's a GameStop employee from back in the day, and he decided to start his own news channel, and he's been running with it ever since. And I've watched him grow from, you know, when I joined him, he was in the thousands maybe of subscribers, and now he's in the, you know, hundreds of thousands of subscribers or something like that. You know, whatever the numbers are, they are what they are. You know, Rob of Two Review is a little lesser known, but you know, once you join one, you see all the other ones pop up on there, and you appreciate the work that they do. They're all a part of the gaming community, and I've just been following them. And it wasn't until recently that I was really start pushing out my own videos. Before I was just sharing videos of me and my family going on vacations and things of that nature, and I would try to do a couple music videos. So what they still on my page, check them out in my back category. So that's why I do have a pretty good amount of videos. A lot of them are copyright claimed because I just share the music and try to do my own little home editing on iMovie to make a home video or to say a certain subject. And I'm still trying to do that, but I noticed that I have to cut out the copyright claiming that they trying to do on me and start just making my own videos and getting my voice back. Me. The words love and life both have four letters, but they're two different things altogether. Right? I'm gonna get back to my Houdini friends and all that good stuff. And y'all do know I like to rock him to Karis One and all those good things. But I just wanted to share my gaming aspect of it. You know what I mean? Because gaming is the number one. It's the number one community. Gaming is an art form, but it does copy from movies. It does copy from literature. It does copy, and we all copy from each other. In hip hop terms, we call it sampling, but with hip hop, we convert it into a little bit of a different form. So Rakim said, "Knowledge had begun until I finished this song." Y'all know how I do with that one. I was a fiend that spit like an elo. No. I was a fiend until I became a teen. Melted microphones instead of cones of ice cream. So orientated. So when hip hop was originated, fitted like pieces of puzzle, complicated. I grab the mic and try to say yes, y'all. They try to take it and say that I'm too small. Cool, cause I don't get upset. I kick a hole in the speaker, pull the plug, then I eject. Cause we've been doing that since we was young boys like Rakim. Everybody's trying to get their voice, and you know, I mean, I'm more of a DJ than an MC. Like I was on a radio station and back in college, and shout out to my man. Oh, jeez. Dust know I know who he is. Dust, because Dust used to be the really. He was supposed to be the MC, but Dust really ain't an MC. He's a businessman. He's the entrepreneur. So Dust would be the entrepreneur in trying to sell what we was trying to do, and he tried to put money behind me being a DJ, and you know we were 1-2 when it came to the NAACP. He had the title of president. I was the vice president, and you know we was getting our little hustle on in college. You know that's you know, and I was the numbers guy. He was the businessman, and you know he's doing good in life, and I'm doing good in life. But you know what I mean, we did our thing. So, but I'm here now, and it's like, all right, cool. I could have had a job at I tried to get a job at Electronic Boutique, but you know what I mean, it is you are dealing in a society that's, you know, shows favoritism to their own. So I had a hard time, always had a hard time getting a job at a position that I wanted. Never had a hard time finding a job. Always had a hard time finding a job at a position that I wanted. So, you know, I always want to come in, hey, I'm the manager. I got manager experience, you know. I got a manager history. And it's always, no, we're going to start you off as the janitor. And it's like, I mean, come on. Y'all got to be kidding me with this nonsense, because they know I know how to integrate functions over intervals just as much, you know, because I'm a good mathematician. So they want me to, you know, they want me to teach, but they only want me to teach at Gratz. They don't want me to teach in the white neighborhoods, and that's the issue that most black men are facing today. You know, so, and that's what we complain about. It's like y'all want us to teach, but y'all only want us to teach in certain areas. Y'all doing the same thing to us that y'all doing to the children, and then y'all using segregation, separation, and gentrification to continue this ideology, which is a Western psychology, to keep us, you know, underneath you. And that's what that's what we complain about, being the liberal, or the leftists. It is and Malcolm X is who first warned us. Like they, you know, they act like they want you to be, you know, a sovereign nation, and my new word is solidarity, but they not supporting us when it comes to, all right, cool, y'all want us to build something, give us the economy to build it, and here we being looked over again and again and again. That's why we kind of sitting back and watching the immigrants getting took away. You know what I mean? And it's like, come to our help, but nah, we done. Foundation of Black Americans are done. We just want to take these little weak jobs that they give us, and we're going to do it the whole old fashioned way. Stack this cheese and build it on our own. You know, we done coming to people's rescue, and you know, and I've been recently calling it y'all, you know, saying y'all crying wolf. Y'all saying we need help, and you get there and y'all don't need help. Is you want me to do the help work for free, and we done working for free, you know, and then bring the Mexicans in and pay them well, and then act like, you know, we lazy, like Foundation Black Americans, because we lazy. So we done with that. But I'm sharing two good dudes. I mean, Spawn Wave, you know what I mean, I follow him, and I ain't no hate on him, but I seen his game. He started with GameStop. I tried to start with Electronic Boutique way back in the day, and now he's running his own little channel. He does a little news station, you know, gaming news, and so does Rob. He does a little bit of gaming news, and on these two little clips, they're going to do economics. So they're going to talk about it's going to be basically economics. I'm going to touch on it just a little bit, like y'all know how I do. And then, you know, I'm going to take it home, you know, sew it all up to help y'all try to understand how economics is the art of making the most out of life. Not money. It's the art of making the most out of life. And y'all be like, you know, y'all say, you say that about hip hop. I say, yeah, that's what hip hop is about too. It's an art form. And we're beautiful people. You know what I mean? And now we're calling ourselves Foundational Black Americans because way back in 1526, we started our first revolution of Africans, fighting the colonizers or those that was trying to enslave us. And the brown Native Americans rescued us and made us a part of their tribe. That's how far back the story goes. We're talking about 500 years ago. And they want to make it seem like we just came here in 1619 or 1776 or like Barack Obama in 1960. Nah, he's a new kid on the block. So that's why we give him, well, you African American, but stop with all that you black and you know our history like that. That's the main, gripe that we say grievance. And that's what the First Amendment is about. The Bill of Rights. It's our right to let this government knows. No. Our lineage been here for forever, and y'all need to cut the check. Stop trying to BS us. So I'm just keeping it 100, and this is for fair use. Try to follow along with it. Hit the like button, subscribe, and share. Stop trying to tell me that enjoy it. I mean, he does a good job with this. And I'll be back with more black media, and more hip hop. But I just wanted to do a gaming, something, to enjoy what gaming is about. And, Spawnwave really, breaks down the numbers for us and talks about the history. So in one clip, he's going to be talking about the history. And the other one, he's going to be talking a little bit about the economics. And then Rob, I'm going to share a little bit of Rob. He's going to be talking about the economics. And then I'm going to share some Tim Black. And he's going to be talking about the BS. So I hope y'all enjoy this show. It's going to be a little bit more than 30 minutes. I think I'm going to share it exclusively with the YouTube. But I'm going to share links of everybody that I share today. And I hope y'all really, really do enjoy this. All right. So give me a minute and I'll be back. Okay.
Want to go back. 5 words that people use constantly when they see things in gaming now, especially price increases or layoffs or studio shutdowns, especially ones that have been around for a long time since, I don't know, the 90s. And that is something that has been happening pretty consistently over the last few years now. Well, from time to time, I like to actually look back and see how things were, say, in the 90s or sometime in the 2000s, or the zeros, I guess, as we refer to it. And today, we're going to look back on what I think was a magical time. A time when systems weren't stupidly expensive. Actually, we had some pretty cool games coming out, tying in with things in the movie theater, and maybe it's just because I was younger, but it just felt like a more magical time period. Actually, it probably was because I was younger, and it was summer, and just video games in general at that time with no school. You get it. But let's take a look back and actually see how things were back summer of 2004, because when you see the cover, you're going to know why I'm saying it was a magical time. Guys, if you enjoy this video and others like it, actually, where we look back, hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. So let's take a look. This is summer 2004. And yes, you see it right away on the cover. This was the summer that Spider-Man 2 came out. That was June 2004, right at the end of June, actually. And to coincide with that, they have, of course, the game that came out. And that was on PS2, Xbox, GameCube, Game Boy Advance, and PC. I mean, they went all out with Spider-Man 2. That released, they said, the day before, I guess, the movie came out. So a lot of hype around the movie, a lot of hype around the game, of course. And in this case, it wasn't one of those phoned-in license games. Spider-Man 2 is still looked back on now, like, to this day, as one of the better, like, superhero games. Certainly one of the best movie tie-in titles ever created. But that's what we're looking at right now. This is the summer catalog from EB Games. And they would just sort of distribute this over the course of, I think, May, June, July, and then August, and cut it off there. And then they'd have like a fall release right around that time period. It's just like a 3-month span. So they'll have things out here for coupons, or at times talk about games before they're out, even though this would have been distributed after they're out. But you get the idea there. So let's go through EB Games Electronics Boutique 2004 summer. Now, they had the pre-order items. Of course, it's EB Games, or now GameStop. And they want to get you for all the pre-orders they could. At this time, though, there wasn't digital, so you did have to go to the store to get your games, and there was the threat of games selling out if they were very popular. Still, though, when you see something like Dog's Life on there, or Castle Siege, or Combat Elite, you might be safe. Although, hey, maybe the store just won't get them then if they don't have enough pre-orders. Hard to say there. But nothing too crazy. I gotta make sure that copy of Madden is pre-order. I guess Tales of Symphonia. There you go. NCAA football was actually still pretty popular. Was really popular here at this time as well. Back then in 05. Okay. PS2. I have my inflation calculator up here. It's a thing that people constantly use online to talk about how prices now are not that outlandish compared to back then. There's something that is always overlooked, though. So the way I would more or less judge pricing when it comes to the system is how many games equal one system at that time. I want you to take a look at this. I mean, this is $150, and it looks like it's the PS2 combo pack. Now, what happened was, after the original Xbox released, Sony did realize pretty quickly, okay, online gaming actually might be something here with consoles. And we don't have an Ethernet port or a network adapter on our system, so they did come up with this combo pack that had the network adapter included, and they even threw in ATV Off-Road Fury 2. That had online connectivity, and you could play games like that online on the PS2 if you had everything you needed for it. Which also, yeah, there's a USB headset you could buy for $30, but $150 for the PS2 with a game, by the way, and the network adapter. And if we go over to the good old inflation calculator everyone loves to use because, you know, it's inflation. That's what's happening here. $253.94. This was 3.5 years after the PS2 came out. That was holiday 2000 that it released in the US. So in that case, 3.5 years later, it is down to $150 or $253 today. So think about that in terms of where we are currently with our consoles. Because the PS2, when it came out, it was not a cheap system. I mean, at launch, it was $299.9, so you do some conversion there with inflation. It would have been, what, over $500 or something now? But the point is, it was cut in half with its pricing. Whereas now, we've been going in the wrong direction for 8 years now, I think, since 2017 with the Switch release. So, as you can see, $150 on the PS2, and oh, trust me, things are going to get cheaper as we go through here, but the games coming in at $40 to $50, like there's Siphon Filter right there at the bottom, 3 games equals one system. Think about how many games on the we'll just say the PS5 that it takes to get to the $450 digital edition floor that Sony set for the new systems. And I know you can find cheaper with refurbished or on sale, but I'm talking about MSRP. Yeah, it's like 6.5 games. So when you think about it in that regard, I mean, yeah, things were just cheaper back then. Now, I will admit, when you talk about strictly inflation when it comes to the games, sure, you can say, hey, some of these games are like $85 when you convert them over. But everything else around it kind of not only evens it out, but still makes everything cheaper. Although, take a look at this. The Growlancer Generations Deluxe, it's a $90 set, and it comes with a watch. It's actually pretty involved for $90 at that time. But, oh, by the way, Pandora Tomorrow, awesome title. PS2 version was a little pared down, I would say, for some of the graphical stuff that they did. The PC version, I remember I had that, and they had a demo, and that looked crazy back then. Didn't run the greatest, but it was still really cool looking to see in very low frame rate screenshots almost. That was it. It almost looked like a slideshow, and you bumped all the stuff up for it. Still, though, it was a cool game. PS2 greatest hits, though, this was a big thing we had back then as well, and even up until recently. I mean, Nintendo did this for their 3DS, right, the Selects. But PS2 greatest hits at, I mean, $19.99, $20. You like Gran Turismo 3, Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank. The first Spider-Man, which wouldn't have been a bad idea to pick up ahead of Spider-Man 2, again on June 29th. Then SOCOM, Sly Cooper. This is the big thing, is you could go in and get games much cheaper, brand new, yes, with the red banner, but greatest hits. It was great. It was awesome.
So yeah, I'm just sharing that it was the history. You know what I mean? He gave us a little history lesson and seeing how the prices have changed. Because the price used to go down. This whole the price stays the same throughout this whole you know sale is a new phenomenon, and it has a lot of us puzzled. Like, you know what I mean? That's not a true supply and demand use, right? Supply and demand is a curve, and it moves. You know, the supply and demand curve moves, and therein is how the price changes. So for the Switch that's been out for 8 years now, 9 years now, the Wii U was out for not that long, 3 years or so. Um, Even the Wii did not. Did the Wii ever price? I guess the Wii did price drop. So the Wii did price drop. Um, but I still had my original Wii. There was no reason for me to buy, another Wii. Um, so I was waiting for the Wii U when it came out for it to price drop instead of getting another Wii, and that's not what happened. So I ended up buying my Wii U for the regular 350. I think it did come with Mario Kart as a package, so that was the quote unquote savings. Was buying a game involved with it, but nah, they back in the day, like he's still in 2000s. That's what Spawn Wave was at, with the PlayStation 2 and how they, it was one, because I might have paid 200 for my PlayStation 2. And I bought my PlayStation 2 just prior to 2000 or whatever year it was I bought it. Same with the PlayStation 1. I didn't get my PlayStation 1 day one. My NES, I didn't get that day one. I might only paid $100, but then I got a couple games added on, and so in the end I ended up paying 200 way back in 1987 is when I got my NES. And I think the NES originally came out in 85 or so. So my SNES, the same thing. I waited. Like I wasn't a day one Super Nintendo buyer either. I waited until the price drop. Mr. C had his NES day one, and he was one of the main reasons why I was like, I got to get one of these things. I forget what game it was that it might have been the Super Mario, Mario Brothers World or whatever. The only one that I bought like day ones was my Nintendo 64. I did get that pretty much day one, but I was in college and working at Wichita Water and doing things like that. So I was okay when I came home. Well, actually, I was home when it came. I think I graduated. Did I graduate? 96 was the year that I graduated. So I was already good because that last year in college, I was, subleasing and doing all types of stuff like that. I was hustling more so than taking classes. So I had money at that time. That was like probably the top of my hustling days. It wasn't until, I got fired from CVS that, all my troubles began. And the same with just went down. Me getting terminated from my last job. And now we're dealing with a government that's acting like people getting terminated from their job isn't a big thing. It's just that you're not looking hard enough or whatever, or you're not, well, Biden's the real creator of that for myself. I was good under, but I do have family members that were struggling under Trump. Under Trump, I was able to go from being a cashier to being a store manager. That's why I was like, hey, might as well keep rolling with them. You know what I mean? Like, why am I switch up now when I was a cashier under the whole time under Obama and working under women and they are sexually harassing me and then not giving me any opportunity and trying to terminate my employment and all that other stuff. And then as soon as it switched to Trump, it was like we're going to get this kid an opportunity. So I went from being a cashier to being a store manager, and they were saying, "Hey, we can see you being in the district role, not in the future." Of course, they didn't say it directly, like, "All right, vote for Trump and you'll get the opportunity to be a district manager." But when he released that platinum plan, it was enough incentive to me to go, hey, I could use that to really start my own business. You know what I mean? Yeah, they was telling me that it was my business. That I quote unquote owned my own store, owned the store. Um, but as soon as it switched, it was bye, see you later. And then I'm going job to job to job, and they're telling me the same thing. Well, you own this right here, but I'm pretty much the janitor. Like, y'all, come on, y'all trying to husk me on the game that they've been pushing on me for decades now. So, but I just wanted to share that right there, because yes, I used to work at. Well, I wanted to work for Electronic Boutique was our gaming store, but now I wasn't given any opportunity to do so. Even when I did work at CVS as a pharmacy retail, because that's what I've been doing for all these years is pharmacy retail. But it's like the only one that I didn't work for is was it Walgreens? That's the only one I didn't work for. So now it's all right. Go back and work for Walgreens, and it's like, nah, I can't do that anymore. In fact, that was the lateral move that they were kind of guiding me toward when Obama was the president. Like, come over here to Walgreens, and it's like, I'm good right here. Like, I'm trying to grow with the company, and that's what we're supposed to do. You're supposed to, start off low and work your way to be the, CEO. That's the way we were traditionally taught to do these things, instead of jumping from company to company to company and letting these companies build up and then fail purposely to file for bankruptcy and launder money for the future, because that's what they're doing. And what they're doing is illegal, and that's what Trump is getting on them about. Instead, we're supposed to work together and build these companies up and have friendly competition. That's called sportsmanship between the different companies. And that's how sports is supposed to work. But as you can see, it's a lot of favoritism going on, and now we're questioning, because the favoritism is the new racism in the form called white supremacy. So what you have is a lot of favoritism, but now they're doing it in line with LGBTQIA and all these weird things, feminism and now child labor is what it is now, because a lot of these jobs are set up for the children. So there's a lot of children that's out there, and they making $15 an hour. That's way better than when I was back in the day. I was only making $5 an hour. Minimum wage is like $8 an hour, I guess, or $7. It depends on where you're at too. But it's we're trying to get to that $20, $30, $40 an hour zone. But then the issue becomes hours. How many hours are you allowed to put in order to really make a profit? So when it comes to overtime pay and things of that nature, in order to subsidize, to make it to that 40, 50, 60, 70, 80,000 a year mark, they denying that, and that's the game. That's the hustle, and they know we know the hustle, and a lot of good people know the hustle, and we're trying to circumvent these things. At the same time, just get the capital in order to say, hey, fuck it, I get the capital and start my own business. And but now you find yourselves, little Davids going up against these big mega corporations. Like how am I supposed to be able to compete with Amazon? You know what I mean? I can't go door to door dropping stuff off. How can I compete with the mega Walmart? I can't get it for that cheap price. And you go in there and they got too many workers. And it's all part of the game. It's everybody's specializing in one thing. So it's like, all right, maybe I can get a job there, but then I'm just sitting at the automated checkout area, or I'm at the door checking people's bags, knowing that that's, a violation of your rights within itself. Like, I mean, I get it. Y'all trying to stop theft, but you are deterring the good customers from shopping in your store. If you got to check my bag every day I come there, and y'all all know that I'm righteous. Depending on the customer. But you can't show favoritism to the righteous and the unrighteous is the psychological game that they're going that they suffering from. So, but yeah, I mean that Spawn Wave was just a history lesson. This one here is going to be touching on Grand Theft Auto. Now, this one's only a minute, and I just wanted to touch on it in a minute because Grand Theft Auto 6 is supposed to be that mega game that is supposed to be the next 10-year game, like Grand Theft Auto 5 was. I'm going to touch more on Grand Theft Auto 6 and what they should be able to, what they should do with it when it comes to second-person perspective. I mean, it's Bonnie and Clyde. So it's supposed to be a lovers game, and they're supposed to have a solidarity that fits like no other. But a lot of us gamers we're hoping for the first true second perspective, second person perspective game, which would have been cool and unique. You know what I mean? Where you if you're the guy, then or if you're the girl, then you're the me. You know what I mean? Because it's you and me. You know what I mean? But it is a third aspect to second person, which is I, which is understood. So it's you, me, and I. But we don't see the I because we have a ungodly understanding of the universe. There's a lot of people that's without God, so they don't see the I. You know what I mean? As soon as you say I am, they get scared because then when a person does that, people get scared because then you think you God, you think you're bigger than me, you think you're better than me, when it's just pride. So it's the pride, humility, or humble debate again. And I'm not supposed to be humble to nobody except for God. That's the truth. You know what I mean? Even my own dad. Now I ain't supposed to be humble before him. I'm supposed to only be humble before God. You know what I mean? He's my brother. God is our father. That's how it works, Christianity wise. But the 10 Commandments is supposed to be Judea, Christians, and Muslims. But as soon as I say love God, people want to argue with you. Like, love God is the first commandment. That is the law. The Bill of Rights is the freedom of speech is your right as a U.S. citizen. So yes, as me as being a foundation American Black American, that is my right as a U.S. citizen. Now it's people that not from this land, they should have the same rights too. Yeah, they should have the same rights too, but they should have the same rights in their country. But they don't have those same rights in their country. That's why they come here. And now they want to try to take those rights away from us because we're supposed to give our rights, our land, our language to them. They're supposed to come here and change our American language, which is English and language arts, to Hispaniola. And we supposed to be okay with that? GDTFOW with that be. But we'll get back to that later on too. Here's part 2. Let me just real quick. It ain't a long video.
You can definitely tell when they announced this delay with investors. Let's take a look. There's the stock for today. Go ahead and just try to tell me. It's so hard to figure out when they made this announcement for a delay for GTA 6. Yeah, I mean, you can see that the drop was substantial. Mostly because it's not that they think, oh, wow, GTA 6 is going to be terrible. No, it's because it's not coming out in the next fiscal year, I guess, or it's not coming out anytime soon is the biggest thing. It's like, well, let's move our money around and figure out another place to put it for now, and then we'll see where they are coming up on launch then in May 2026. So thinking about it that way, I would assume the plan is console with Xbox and PlayStation first in May. Then you would have PC follow up most likely in 2027. And I say this because it's not like they're delaying it for more versions. What they are saying, apparently, is just they need more time to get the game done. Which then means, I mean, they could probably do the Switch 2 version in there, maybe alongside of PC or just around that time in 2027. And then, with kind of the way things are shaping up for PlayStation 6 and Xbox Series XXX, they might have another version in 2028 or 2029. What I'm saying is GTA 6 is going to be around for a long time, and they will have several releases for this thing. They're kind of lining up almost every 14 months, I feel. with this date now in 2026. Also, keep in mind, I would expect that GTA 6. It sounds funny now, but hey, this video should still be up by then. A PlayStation 7 and an Xbox Series Quadruple X version will probably come out sometime in the 2030s.
And it, it's supposed to be the biggest game. It's supposed to be the biggest game of all time. You know, Grand Theft Auto 6 is supposed to be the biggest game of all time, and they're gonna and we feel like as gamers we feel like they're gonna mess it up because instead of like I'm saying, instead of making it a second person game of Bonnie and Clyde and them working together, taking over it's supposed to be Vice City, right? And them taking over Vice City. Instead, I feel like we're going to get more of that woke folk stuff. More of Bonnie being the main character. This is their chance to do the bait and switch and make Bonnie the main character, and her boyfriend's going to be the simp. We already see it. That's how I'm not interested in it. I'm sticking to Switch. Plain old Switch. The goal is to get the Switch to, I think it's 160 million, or whatever it is. Whatever the PlayStation 2 is, and that's what I'm sharing Rob to review real quick. He's going to break down the numbers on, how many systems sold. So, King, what's his name? Mr. T, he's the one that started this, and I'm going to share him more in the future too. He's a good brother, family and everything. I just wish, hey, Mr. T, I wish you, share more of your family. Like, I'm trying to share more of me and my son time. Like, why am I sharing, just me getting on y'all about the hypocrisy of us being, afraid of this government, right? No, we elect them to protect us. We elect them to help us get our Bill of Rights. That's why we elect them, not to destroy our families. That's why I spit on the ground with them, especially like Barack Obama, Joe Biden, spit on the ground because they wasting my time. They're the ones that destroyed the black community. They're the ones that gentrified our people. They're the ones that caused this desegregation, which is nothing more than the destruction of the black family, the foundational black family, to be specific. So yeah, it is, our children want to, be free in this country, but it is they like to say diversity, equity, inclusion, but the diversity is the destruction of the mother and father, the fifth commandment. We supposed to honor our father and mother. No, they're purposely destroying the father and mother household. So most of these women, they kick their men out the house. Because if he don't pay if he doesn't step forward or whatever, or if he doesn't get with her program, she kicks him out the house, right? And then you got a lot of simp ass dad that I'm gonna leave the house and go out here and go to the clubs. I got a whole bunch of big booty, and it's like, dude, you're wasting your time in these clubs. And that's why it's funny, because I sit back and I'm watching video, and these clubs is a club full of big booty women, black women, and there's no men. It's hilarious to me. You know what I mean? It's like, you need to get out there, and I'm good. You know what I mean? I'm looking at the passport, bros, but it's wasting my time looking at them because they all coming here. You know what I'm saying? They trying to stay, but you got to be single in order to do that. That's why I'm like kind of a little confused with, you know what I mean? But I love my cousins and Sergeant Willie Pete, right? It's like with Charlie Pete, they coming here. There's no reason for you to go anywhere. They coming here, yo. Just girt one up and take the hat off. You know what I mean? and I'm still keeping it PG-13-14. I'm not saying that these children should be participating in any of those activities. Y'all need to just focus on your grades and your studies and getting to know people. Befriend people first. Then, consider marriage. You know what I mean? There's no need for us to pound over your head, the deviancy of LGBTQ. Back when I was young, it was the J, the I, the M, the M, the Y, the J, the I, the M. It's Jimmy, right? Jimmy is wearing a hat, right? That's what it was about, protecting yourself, right? So if you know what I mean, if you feel as though she's that you had to, and you ain't have a hat, cool. I ain't got no hats today. I'm good, right? You without a hat, you bugging, yo. And that's where Mr. C and Sergeant Willie Pete is at. But you know, you got just these nation of people going pointing at them, going that they paying for Plan B or whatever it is that killing the babies, and then that's whack, yo. You know what I mean? So the choice is yours. You can get with this or you can get with that. I'm doing my best to keep it PG 13, 14, and that's where we are. But that's why I had to I do want to keep it gaming. That's why I'm sharing what I'm sharing today. You know what I mean? I'm way over my time. I'm just like I'm just gonna throw it out there, and still if y'all made it this far, I really appreciate it. Hit the like button, subscribe, and share. Let's get to this Rob of 2 review. Shout out to Rob. Like, I love Rob. Rob about to break down these numbers for y'all. All right. And like I said, Mr. T is the one that started with this, understanding that the first console of the Nintendo is usually the Revolution. The second console is the Evolution. So we're going to go through this whole Revolution, Evolution, Revolution, Evolution, Revolution, Evolution. I don't think I started all the way back at the first NES to the Super NES. I might have, I just picked a point, and then Rob's going to run it through and share his comments, and, stick around, check it out, hit the like button, subscribe. Shout out to Rob. This is like the second or third time I shared you, and, just keeping it 100. All right? Be right back.
You've got the Game Boy on the right that sold 118 million units lifetime, and that's including the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color. And then the Game Boy Advance, another massive hit and the true successor to the Game Boy line, that sold 81 million units. That is huge. That is nothing to scoff at, but it's certainly significantly lower than the 118 million units that the Game Boy sold. I mean, we're talking about 40 million units difference here, but 81 million units, again, is a huge hit in its own bubble. Now, you don't have to tell me that comparing the Wii and the Wii U really skews these numbers, because the Wii U, God, I will just never understand it. One of my favorite consoles of all time, an incredible library, an amazing controller. But look, man, the people just didn't buy in. Nintendo screwed up the marketing in the beginning, and they really just never recovered. So, unfortunately, comparing the Wii and the Wii U does skew this conversation and doesn't really help. But we can still look at the other examples here. The big one being the Nintendo DS and the Nintendo 3DS. The Nintendo DS, 154 million units, still just edging out the current Switch by a few million units. And the Nintendo DS, 75 million units. Just like the Game Boy Advance, an absolutely massive hit of a piece of gaming hardware in its own bubble. But at 75 million units, it is basically almost exactly half of the 154 that the DS sold. And so then again, we look at the Nintendo Switch at 150 million units currently. I feel like it's going to top out around the 155 million lifetime. That's just my prediction. I'm just guessing. Could be more, could be less. Who even knows? But right now, we're looking at 150 million units. And so if we apply the same kind of numbers that we saw from the Game Boy to the Game Boy Advance, or the Nintendo 3DS to the Nintendo DS to the Nintendo 3DS, sorry, we can look at, I think, around half of the lifetime sales could make the Switch 2 optically a success. Now, of course, I gave you my number of 60 million, saying that at 60 million or more, the Nintendo Switch 2 very likely could be seen as a pretty sizable success following the Nintendo Switch. And obviously that is less than half of the 150 that the current Switch is at. But again, I only used 60 million as the floor. That's like the lowest number that I feel we would be able to say that the Switch 2 is a success. My true prediction, if I was to give more of a prediction on where the Switch 2 might sell, I feel like it's somewhere between 70 and 85 million. So, significantly more than the 60 million. And at 70 to 85 million, that's when we're hovering around or even higher than the halfway point to the Nintendo Switch's 150. This is absolutely one of those conversations where, as I talk about it out loud, it just feels very like messy and confusing and crazy because you're just throwing out numbers: 50 million, 75 million, 60 million, 23 million, 18 million, 13.5 million. And it's like, I know you guys, you know the sales numbers, you know Nintendo's numbers, you understand what I'm saying, but when you spend 5 minutes straight just throwing these numbers out up and down about this system and that system, it just feels like you're speaking gobbledygook. And so hopefully it's coming across coherent in this conversation and you guys can understand what I'm trying to say. But again, to kind of summarize it and get back to the gist of what I'm saying, I think that at 60 million or more, again, this is just me speaking for me, not for you, not for Nintendo. At 60 million or more, we can say, okay, following up the insane lightning in a bottle success that the Switch was at 150 million units, the successor console sells 63 million units. Let's say lifetime ends up being 63 million units. A significant dip from the Switch's 150, but I'm willing to bet Nintendo will still have made money, and I know tariffs makes things a little confusing right now too, but I think that Nintendo will still have made a profit on Switch 2 hardware sales at 60 million or more. And when we factor in probably very strong software sales, that is the other bigger part of any video game company's business and revenue. If the software is still insanely strong at 60 million Switch 2 units, then again, Nintendo will have had another successful generation on their hands, in my opinion. However, I will remind you that I'm still targeting that 70 to 85 million. I mean, if the Switch 2 sells 80 million or more, I think it's going to be a massive hit. Even though that's not really encroaching on the 150 of the current Switch, those are numbers that fall in line with the Game Boy to Game Boy Advance and the DS to 3DS trajectory. That's kind of the general gist of what I'm getting at with this conversation. And I really feel, I know things are a little bit crazy right now, and there's a lot of negativity surrounding the Switch 2 because the messaging has been weird and some decisions aren't great, and Mario Kart is $80 and no one likes a lot of these things. I've talked about it. I don't like $80 for Mario Kart. I really don't like the game key cards thing. So who knows what the Switch 2 ecosystem is going to look like in, let's say, 4 years from today. No one really knows, but I feel like if we were to give it a similar trajectory of success that the Switch had, we can look at that 80 million-ish number and see the Switch 2 as a huge hit. I think a really important sentiment for me to get across in this video and maybe to leave you guys with in this conversation, and I think that this is maybe targeted potentially at a lot of the younger gamers out there or the gamers who haven't been gaming long enough to have gone through a lot of console generation transitions, right? Is I think the main thing I want to leave a lot of you guys with is that we can't go into the Switch 2 thinking that it needs to sell more than the Switch to be a success. Because, as I showed with some of Nintendo's examples here, that is not what happens, okay? From the NES to the GameCube, each console sold less and less. From the Game Boy to the Game Boy Advance, it sold less. From the Wii to the Wii U, it sold less. From the DS to the 3DS, it sold less. The trajectory for consoles, PlayStation is kind of like this. Xbox is absolutely also a downward trajectory. But in general, the trajectory is still descending. Usually things just sell less until they revamp everything. That's another key part of this too, by the way, is the fact that the Switch 2 is not a revolutionary new device. It's not changing up the hybrid console formula. So it's not introducing something completely brand new, okay? It is a backwards compatible, identical hybrid machine that's just more powerful and has a few hardware tweaks with like the Joy-Cons and whatnot. So that's the other thing. If this was another revolutionary design in console, then we might be having a different conversation. But a huge part of my numbers, when I talk about 60 million to 85 million being a success, it's like that's because it's just another Switch. And that is not a bad thing. I'm not saying that is a negative. It's backwards compatible, so a lot of Switch gamers are going to transition to the Switch 2, and that's going to be part of what this ecosystem looks like. And so it's a long way to say We can't go into this thinking the Switch 2 has to sell more than the Switch to be successful, or that it even has to sell more than 100 million units to be successful. Now, I think if the Switch 2 ends up really just firing on all cylinders, and after the first year we've gotten past all the negative news and people are embracing it, I can absolutely see a future where the Switch 2 also crosses 100 million units. I mean, look, the sky is the limit. Nintendo just has to make the right games and have the right business model to make people happy and make the right business decisions to make people happy, and they can have another 100 million seller absolutely with the Switch 2. It's not really what I'm currently predicting here a month out from the release of the Switch 2, but it's certainly possible. That being said, I'm going to bring it back to reality. I'm going to look at my current target, and this is subject to change with every day, week, month, and year into the Switch 2's life. But right now, I think 70 to 85 million, around the half mark, the half selling number of the current Switch. That's what I think the Switch 2 is probably going to do. And like I said, to me, it's going to be a success. Nintendo will see it as a success. We should see it as a success. Don't let people tell you that 80 million Switch 2s will be seen as a failure because the Switch sold 150 million. That is not going to be the case. Look at the history of the Game Boy and the DS family of consoles. That's just how these things usually work. So
because let me add this. Nintendo wants to beat that PS2 mark. They want the Switch to be more than the PS2. I mean, why else wouldn't you wouldn't be concerned with the price of the Switch 2? You know, they made the Switch 2 what it is in order to compete with the other handheld devices of this era. At the same time, they're looking at that PS2 spot of 160, whatever it is, 160 million. So they want to beat that number. You know what I mean? Naturally, the Switch 2 sales being added on breaks that number. You know what I mean? So even if they only sell 40 million of them, that naturally hits the 200 million mark. You know, that's the goal. You know, I mean, they consider this, and Nintendo always operated like that. So even from Wii to Wii U, it's the same system combined. We want to hit 200 million or whatever goal they put. They're doing the same thing with the Switch 2. They want the Switch. They might even repackage the Switch as a Switch 1. In next year or so. That way it's still they want to beat that PS2 mark. That's the goal. The goal is to beat that PS2 mark with the Switch 1. Then they'll be focused on the Switch 2. The Switch 2 is going to naturally sell because, like I just shared the guys that want it. You know, they want it. They want to go out. They could have charged $600. They got the cash to go get it. Where we, because I'm a part of that community of in the ghetto, right? We can't afford that. So, my son wants one, but now he's of the age when I was a teenager, and it was like, my dad was like, you got to go get a job now. So I got to be the dad, and you got to get a job, I ain't just gonna go buy you a plate, a Switch 2 or whatever. Yeah, of course his mom, I get it for him, but that was the thing. Like, so next thing you know, I was working. I started my career at the camp first. I volunteered to work and was a camp counselor. Then I was at a Derby's Wheel Pumping. I was washing dishes, and then I was at Kmart. I was working. I was only making $4 or $5 an hour. I wasn't making much, and I had to work my way up. But yes, I was often overlooked by, the favoritism. The white favoritism is corny, and we just keeping it real, and that's what's still going on to this day. That's all I've been sharing on my page and on Facebook, showing the favoritism, and I'm about to share it now with because I'm ending with Tim Black real quick. Tim Black is a foundational white American name. I think I'm gonna name this episode because all I'm sharing is the black media. How Tim Black wanted to be his whole life he wanted to be a news reporter, and I guess he wrote at the papers and things of that nature, because that would be the normal, you know what I mean. But he couldn't get in, so he decided to, I guess, took whatever. He tells his own stories. So click the link, go to his page, check it out. But here he is analyzing CNN and them having petty gossip about racism in a form called white supremacy, let's say, which is the psychological, a Western psychological ideology created by Sigmund Freud, caused by the Oedipus complex, and the popularization way back in the day of that kind of mentality, and why boys want to kill their father and marry their mother. I mean, you can't get more hypocritical than that. Especially when dealing with hip hop, and I'm telling y'all that hip means to know, it's a form of intelligence. To be hip means to be up to date and relevant. Hop is a form of movement. You can't just observe a hop. You got to hop up and do it. Hip and hop is more than music. Hip is that knowledge. Hop is the movement. And I'm trying to help y'all understand to use your real eyes to realize these real lies. How they crying wolf all the time. But we over here, people like myself that listen to great MCs like KRS-One, that's telling you that this is not the first time that we came to the planet. We've been here before, but only a few could understand it. We came as ISIS, but the words they tried to ban it. We came as Moses, they couldn't follow the commandments. Came as Solomon to a people that was lost. We came as Jesus, but then they nailed us to the cross. But as soon as you say I am Jesus, right? That's when the people without God don't understand me, myself, and I. Right? They understand me, myself, but that third aspect of the, first person, second person, even third person, he, she, it, I is still there. There it is. They want to say that God is the it. Like, what? Nah, God is the I. And if you understand that, then you understand love God, and then you understand why God is with you. So, but I go more into that later on. You know what I mean? I ain't pulling out my Bible, my Quran, or my Tao right now. I just want to share a little not Jason Black. This is Tim Black, and I had a picture of Jason thing on there right now. Right now I got hip hop, TD Media hip hop. Well, now it's TD Media, and showing the hypocrisy of what we have to talk about as black media. Either what's his name, P Diddy, or where I shared the cartoon of Shannon Sharp, right? Like they just making fun of us, and that's all we can do. And they're doing it to themselves. That's why it's funny. Like I can't wait to see this new Superman movie, but I know they're gonna, try to use some reverse psychology, and is the latest thing that people are upset about, because they nerfing Superman. Like he's still powerful, but he's not the unstoppable Superman that was in Superman and Batman versus Batman. He is a little nerfed on this one. So they got the dog and everything come help him, and I thought it was a cute video, and him taking them to the artificial intelligent robots, and they don't, we're not sentient beings, and it is the times that we in is cute to me. I can't wait to see it, and it's something that me and my son is going to enjoy that day. But he took us to go see Minecraft, and that was funny within itself, because that was nothing but more than DEI, and I'm sitting there laughing because they just showing the LGBTQIA pedophiles with the PDF files with the children, a minor. That's all it was, and it's corny because my son. He has a better understanding because he's a teenager. But we got the kids there, and it's like, all right, it's over their heads. We get that. Just like even if they do change the law so that you can put the Bible in school, it's the Bible isn't necessary at kindergarten, elementary. It's not necessary at middle school. It's not even necessary in high school. Those type teachings should come from the church on Sundays or the community. So it's not necessary. Hence, why is it necessary for them to deny Deuteronomy 22, for example, when I'm talking about the Sodom and Gomorrah? types, the those that are without God. Like that's where it gets corny. So, but I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna share this Tim Black. It's dope. It's funny to me, right? And Tim's gonna really entertain us real quick, and then I'm gonna end it with that. So, I mean, I hope y'all enjoyed it. Hit the like button, subscribe, share. I'm over an hour. I didn't mean to go this long, but I mean, this type of show was like as I was preparing and putting it together. I really didn't want to get all into my tautological epistemology talk. I know I lose people with that. I really didn't want to get into the philosophical, the Eastern philosophical methodology of the Middle Nation with what's his name, Bolson. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about, you know, the psychological aspect of the other guy. What's his name? Y'all know. I'll get more into those talks later on. I'm just talking pure mathematics and having fun and enjoying life. That's what hip hop is really about. So I could sing Slick Rick's children's story, and we understand the concept of the story of the kid that went wrong, and we understand what happened to the end of that story. But don't come to me with, you know, that's what's wrong with your community. That's what's wrong with your consciousness. That's what's wrong with your, you know, culture. If y'all not trying to be the culture, if you're not trying to be for us, if you're not trying to be with us, then there's always a third aspect. You're trying to be against us, and that's those are the ungodly people that I really don't mess with, and I see them. You know what I mean? The atheist isn't my problem; it's the anti-theist. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of people out here that's atheists, and they say they got my back too. That's why it's funny, because they'll go, you know, you're a fool for, you know, but at the same time, it's I see them warning me about the anti-theists, and it's like, dude, I know that they're the anti-theists. You know what I mean? No, that's family. They just confused because they following the anti-theists instead of understanding that anti-racism is a mirage. Not racism is understanding that it's nothing more than white favoritism. You know, so instead of being desegregated, we need to show solidarity with our father or the time hip hop life loved one. All right, so that's me just breaking it down for y'all real quick, and then here's Tim Black, and enjoy that. All right.
Wow. You're slow, huh? You were kind of slow to react to the border thing. Nah, man. No, you don't get to do that again. If I let something go for 6 months, 6 weeks. 6 weeks. You let something go for 6 weeks, that's slow. You know? You let something go for 4 years, that's not slow. That is intentional. In fact, you were doing what you wanted to do. That's not even, like, that's in a whole nother realm. The Democrats weren't slow to react to the immigration issue, to react to the border. They were carrying out an agenda. Okay, so I want to be clear here, guys. Let's be very, look. The Democrats had an agenda. The agenda was to bring in new ninjas.
We could afford to take in a heartbeat another 2 million people. The idea that a country of 330 million people cannot absorb people who are in desperate need and who are justifiably fleeing oppression is absolutely bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. I would also move to increase the total number of immigrants able to come to the United States. But also the deal is all those migrants, look what happened in Europe. What brought down the social stability of Europe?
Okay? You understand what I'm saying?
President Biden, the issue of immigration and border security. President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers. Significantly, by the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where, when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere. All over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation, because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in
Thank you,
caravans.
President Trump.
Do you understand what I'm saying? This is what they're doing. Black people, you need to understand that too. They want to bring in poor whites. They want to bring in a new poor class that are going to move above us. Okay? They're going to move above blacks. That's the problem. That's another thing, okay? But they're bringing in a new class of people intentionally. This was the goal. It's not a bug of Biden's presidency. It is a feature. It's intentional. It's like Seth Curry taking 1,000 shots a day. Biden was taking 1,000 shots a day for an outcome. The border being open was intentional to achieve a certain result. Let's not act delusional. Let's stop letting Democrats off the hook. And I got a lot of sellout Democrats. A whole lot of black, sellout, horrible Democrats who want to deny reality.
So I had to go around the country and educate people about what immigrants do for this country, or the fact that we are a country of immigrants.
Right.
The fact is, ain't none of y'all trying to go and farm right now. Okay, so I'm lying. Raise your hands. You're not. We done picking cotton. We are. You can't pay us enough to find a plantation.
How many of you are sending your kids to college to go and work on them? Okay, well, guess who is working the farms? So that you can afford your food.
So that you can have food.
So that you can have food. Now, how many of you are looking to send your kids into hospitality after this college education so that they can go and make the beds at the hotels? How many of you are planning to send your kids to college? Because that's what we do here. We send everybody to college. How many of you are planning to send your kids to college so that they can then go and build these houses? So the reality is that so long as we live in a capitalist society, there's always going to be someone or a group of people that will do work that some of the rest of y'all don't want to do. These are the people that are really making us great in this country.
I am telling you that this is a failed thing, but we've got to do better to connect the dots and let people know the reason you can't afford a home is because of these failed immigration policies. The reason you're not going to be able to afford your food is because of these failed immigration policies.
Guys, the new puzzle game.
And actually, that was the wrong clip. See how it works out? But I think that one was necessary. I think that one was necessary to really understand what was about to happen on this one, because it's called the glitch. It's called the, because they, Democrats have been using this over and over and over again, saying we are a nation of immigrants. Foundation of Black Americans saying that we've been fighting since 1526 and we were here before 1492. We've been here since day one, because the natives with brown skin, they're the ones that rescued a lot of Africans, and but they're using the one drop rule and genocide paper. They're doing what's called paperwork genocide. They're changing the narrative. They're trying to rewrite history so that we have no ties to this country before the neo-colonizers that they're doing today. So it's not of us against, us being against them. You're not for or with us. That's actually what the problem is going on. But I'm gonna share this part right here. I'm gonna share this video right here. I know it goes against the narrative. It goes against the Democrat Party, and I know it's judged the Republicans. But yes, and you're right, because I say it over and over again. 70% of these Republicans are actually Democrats. It's not about them switching sides. They're one and the same. They're the same coin. You're just flipping the coin, guessing Democrat every time. Yeah, you'll be 50% of the right of the, half of the time. You right half of the time naturally, or you can guess, heads then tails, then heads then tails, and then that changes your percentages of being above or below 50%. Therein is the statistics in a nutshell. And where the true fight is you're not Democrat. That's the problem. You see yourself in the mirror as a Democrat. You see yourself in the mirror as being the enemy of your own self. So, I mean, we you got to stop blaming yourself. We vote for these people in order to fix the socioeconomic problems that they're the ones actually creating. So, you just heard Jasmine Crockett, and she needs to shut up. So I'm just keeping it 100, and here goes the actual video that I want to share.
There is an agenda at foot. When I say there's an agenda at foot, when the Democrats are just playing black people for fools, Anna Navarro just have to cut out the bag. But you got to be willing to accept it. Even her gift wrapping this segment and eroding all the BS lies about the big tent and all this shit. It won't work for you. You won't see through it unless you're ready to. Are you ready to see through it? Or are you still gonna go with the talking points that the liberals and CNN and TYTs and MSNBC and all the independent progressive media kumbaya acting and bullshit? If that was true, man, if Anna Navarro was being honest, and if it was true that the Democrats are such a big tent, why are we still on the bottom? Why are black people stuck to the bottom in America, in the economic hierarchy of the country? If we've had this party, this great big tent that's full of progressives too, full of them too, they there too, why are we still stuck at the bottom if this is working, if this is cool, if what you think is true? If I'm wrong, why hasn't been working for us? Or you think the Republicans have made a concerted effort, the Republicans by themselves, and it's been able to work for 55 years since civil rights. They that powerful, huh? By themselves. Man, she just gave it to you. She gave the game. I feel like she got a game on a silver platter.
Is that where we're going?
You think I would say I will have advocated for black people my entire life and say something like that?
Because you've advocated for black people, great, congratulations. Last time I checked, I'm black, you're not.
Okay, Michael. That's right. I'm Latino and my people are being racially profiled.
And do I have to remind you the history of my people?
Do I
want to go there?
No, I don't.
Do you really want to go there?
We're going to go to...
I'm really having a hard time seeing the difference between her and Megyn Kelly. Is there a difference between her and Megyn Kelly, folks? I know the history of your people. Something you can tell me, Akata, that I don't already know. Now, she wouldn't use those words, but the mannerisms, the tone of voice, the dismissive attitude, exactly the same. And in Navarre, when you're put in a situation where you're talking to a black man and you got to tell him that you know his history, yeah, you lost. When you're telling him you know his history, he says, I'm a black man. You ain't black. What are you talking about? Your response is, I know about black people. I know your history. I went to school. I know your history. That says everything we need to be said about you. But I need people to wake up to it.
We'll be right back. When I was studying history, like the testing.
She's still talking. Look at Abby. Miss Phillips, Mrs. Phillips. Look at her. If I'm tired of this shit, had a face, it'd be this.
Tim Black's BS detector.
Tim Black's BS detector.
Tim Black's BS detector.
We do not have unlimited resources.
I think a lot of Americans
to take care of other people.
There's a hell of a lot of people other than the black people who were brought here as slaves who came to this country illegally.
They're not the same as black people who were brought here against our will.
That's exactly what I just said. I said there is a lot of...
See, okay, here we go. That's what it is. It's her bad usage of the English language. She butchered the hell out of that sentence. That's what it is, Anna. You don't speak well. In fact, my ears didn't perk up till you said black and slave. By that time, you halfway down the street and you about to add in all this additional stuff. And no one knows where you're going. And then you land and your last word is come here illegally. Huh? Using black people slaves, and then the end of your sentence is come here illegally. Kirk says, Anna Navarro tried to use the black Americans or immigrants. Cheat code and glitched. Dog, I tried to decipher what she meant. I don't know why even bring us in the conversation? Why not just talk about what's on the table? What's on the table is, immigration and migrants. Why even bring in the African slaves and black Americans? Why do it? I know Abby stuck up for you because that's what she does. Girl power. But, Democrats. But, nah, this is on her. That's on her. That's who that is. That's her right there. I'm sorry, guys. That's obvious.
Tim Black's BS detector.
Tim Black's BS detector.
Tim Black's BS detector.
We do not have unlimited resources.
I think a lot of Americans
to take care of other people.
There's a hell of a lot of people other than the black people who were brought here as slaves who came to this country illegally.
They're not the same as black people who were brought here against our will.
That's exactly what I just said. I said there is a lot of people
border. There's a big difference. There is a big difference.
That's exactly what I just said.
There is a big difference.
And another thing too, that's what she said is bogus. It's really bogus here. And I want to, when those other people came to this country, they didn't get any help. Yo, they spent billions of dollars clothing and giving clothing and shelter and vouchers and shit and credit cards and ATM and debit cards. In New York, they created a whole new credit card system, debit card system to feed them. They didn't even want to give them the cheese sandwich in the cheese line. They said, oh, my tummy hurt. My tummy hurt. Oh, there's free food and free housing and free air and heat and medicine and health checkup and security. So they went and gave them debit cards, created a whole new banking system so that they could order food like DoorDash, whatever they want. All for migrants. Now, when people came over Ellis Island, when the Poles came, when the Italians came, when the Irish came, we didn't have shit. They came to nothing. We didn't have any social programs. We damn sure wasn't spent how much? Was it 5.9 or 6.1 billion dollars New York spent? What was it? $500 million. Chicago, Illinois can't even keep its schools open, but Chicago spent $500 million on your people. Now, don't go comparing that to what happened with other groups that came over, because ain't nobody spent. They didn't care if they didn't care if the Polish died in the streets. They damn sure didn't care what happened to the Irish when they came over here. treated them like dogs and the kid. What happened to them? No, you can't do it. You did this, Anna, with your big mouth. You opened up a can of whip ass, and I'm gonna whip it.
Yeah, let's hit click on that right there, and there it is, right? I had fun with this one, and I know the volumes and everything. I'm just gonna end it real quick, you know, because it's. I just wanted to share how everybody else is professional. Now that it's time for the professionals to be professionals on CNN and things of that nature, it's hard for them to get the attention that they want. So it is turning into a one big messy gossip show, like the Breakfast Club. You know what I mean? For example, like I don't listen to the Breakfast Club. I didn't listen to Wendy Williams back in the day. Yeah, I mean, when I went to the radio, I listened to the radio. I wanted to hear the music. I didn't want to hear the gossip. I wanted to hear the Public Enemy, the Run DMC, the Slick Rick, and and when in college the radio died. But I was on the radio. I used to play the Tupac, the Wu-Tang, whatever I could. But they used to censor us. Make sure there's no cursing and things of that nature. But I didn't have the equipment to edit out all the, So yeah, I would get away with playing "Don't Curse" by Heavy D and them, right? But it was few rappers that they just wanted to do the explicit content. That hurt us, I wasn't able to play everything that I wanted to play. My show was a little different than Cool Kyle. Cool Kyle used to play the house music. You know what I mean? I would start. Me and Dust would start off with some hip hop and then do the slow jams afterwards. So we was trying to do I can't remember the guy's name on 99 or whatever. The Quiet Storm. So we would for the second half of dinner or whatever, we would do that. So and that meant I usually stayed up there on the weekends at that time or whatever, or if I did, I had to make it back by a certain time, and because that was my quote unquote job, but I was volunteering to do that, be on the radio, and there it is. That's hip hop culture for you. You know what I mean? That I'm sharing with you. But Tim Black, he's a similar path, but he wants to be the black media. He wants to be the newsman, and all he can do is share the fake news that Trump warned us about. You know what I mean? Where the black woman, she's in charge, and she just got caught between the spicy Latina and the educated Negro, right? So there it is, And I'll rap some more later on, you know what I mean? If you're offended by what I just said, I apologize. I get it. You know what I mean? We can't say God or gay anymore because those are three little words that they trying to protect the children from. When love God is the first commandment, which is weird, right? Love God, our Father, all the time. Hip hop life. Love one. That's God is love. Hip hop is life. Time is holy. So cherish it. Cherish the day, like Sade said, right? Economics is nothing more than the art of making the most out of life. I'd rather say hip hop is the art of logical thinking or the laws of reasoning, but it is an art form of making the most out of life. I'm just keeping it 100. I wish you all peace, compassion, and happiness. But we got to get there, right? We got to get there. Like, subscribe, share. I'll be back with a short one next time. I just want to push this one up because I had a lot to share. and I still have way more to say. 1.